Aryna Sabalenka has apologized for her comments she made after her Rolling Girls finals loss to Coco Gauff. If you're not aware, Aryna essentially said that it was a poor match from her and that Iga likely would have beaten Coco if Świątek won their semifinal. Aryna said on her IG story, "Yesterday was a tough one. Coco handled the conditions much better than I did and fully deserved the win. She was the better player yesterday and I want to give her the credit she earned. You all know me, I'm going to be honest and human in how I process these moments. I made over 70 unforced errors, so I can't pretend it was a great day for me. Both things can be true. I didn't play my best, and Coco stepped up and played with poise and purpose."
After losing to Coco Gauff at the French Open, Aryna Sabalenka recently received a harsh lesson about speaking without thinking. Rather than shamefully conceding defeat, Sabalenka asserted that it was her own errors, not Gauff's play, that cost her the match. She even implied that if Iga had advanced to the final, she would have defeated Gauff. When Gauff responded coldly, Sabalenka became the laughingstock of tennis fans worldwide.
Just won the French Open, and the girl that she beat is having a boo-hoo fest about how Coco wasn't necessarily the better player, but I just made too many mistakes, and blaming it on all these other factors.
Coco Gauff is already a household name. She's already cemented her place in tennis.
In fact, all that backlash prompted Aryna to walk back her comments about Coco by saying this on her Instagram story. In part, and I quote, "She was the better player yesterday, and I want to give her the credit she earned," end quote.
Should players publicly criticize their opponent's wins, or is it just bad sportsmanship? The moment Coco Gauff won the French Open was one of unadulterated joy. She destroyed her opponents, played incredible tennis the entire time, and deserved every second of the title. She was so thrilled as she raised the trophy that she actually dropped the lid on the floor. That is a sincere feeling. Genuine happiness from someone who put in a great deal of effort and accomplished something noteworthy. She should have been joined in celebration by the entire tennis community. However, Aryna Sabalenka had to throw shade to prevent Gauff from having her moment.
On the match, not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes from, like if you look from the outside, kind of like from an easy balls.
During the post-match interview, Sabalenka chose to place the responsibility on herself rather than give Gauff credit for outperforming her. She claimed that Gauff's victory was due to her errors rather than Gauff's efforts. Such a backhanded rejection appears to be showing yourself grace, but in reality, it is demeaning to your opponent. You're essentially implying that the other player didn't deserve the win when you lose and claim it was your mistakes rather than their skill. You simply gave it to them because you were incompetent. Sabalenka, however, didn't end there. She went one step further and claimed that she would have defeated Gauff in the final if Iga had defeated her in the semifinals. Consider how offensive that remark is. As she stands there after losing to Gauff, she is already making assumptions about who else might have defeated her. She implies that the only reason Gauff won the bracket was because she faced Sabalenka rather than Świątek. It goes beyond sour grapes. That is precisely what Sabalenka was doing, actively attempting to undermine someone's title. She is not gullible. She realized that Sabalenka was not recognizing her performance or her strength. Gauff had to make a decision when it came time to give the trophy. She avoided interacting with Sabalenka. She avoided looking at him. She failed to provide her with any interactional satisfaction. It was an unambiguous message conveyed by a totally justifiable cold shoulder. I will not pretend to be buddies for the sake of the cameras if you do not appreciate me as a competitor. The great part about Gauff's response is she avoided making any nasty remarks or causing any drama in public. During the ceremony, she chose to ignore Sabalenka, and her silence said a lot. Everyone in the audience knew exactly what was going on and why. Gauff made her argument while maintaining a dignified demeanor. She had no intention of calling out Sabalenka to deliberately disgrace her. However, she also refused to pretend that everything was all right when it was obviously not.
I think if Iga would win me another day, I think she would go out today and she would get the win. It just, like, yeah.
I mean, I don't agree with that. I'm here sitting here. And last time I played, no, like to ego or anything, but I played her and I won in straight sets. So, but yeah, I think regardless of who I played, I think I had a good shot to win, and I definitely had that belief. And if you ask me, like, honestly speaking to you guys, who I wanted to play, it was Ika, just because I felt Aryna was playing so good, and she was. So, but also Ika is a tough opponent too. So honestly, neither of them would have been a better shot, but you know, it played out how it played out, and yeah, that's why I'm here.
Gauff then responded to Sabalenka's remarks in her own post-match remarks, but she refrained from criticizing her specifically. She made it apparent that she didn't agree with the notion that Sabalenka only loses matches due to errors. Gauff emphasized that she won the championship because of her own power, shot-making, and strategy. She refused to allow anyone, not even her rival, to change the story of her triumph. She won that game because of her excellent play, not because of any fortuitous breaks or mistakes made by the opposition. When Gauff responded that Sabalenka was her most formidable opponent, it was a superbly petty move. That seems like praise at first glance. She acknowledges the level of competitiveness by claiming Sabalenka was difficult to defeat. But given that Sabalenka had just claimed to have beaten herself, it's actually a subtle drag. Gauff is stating, "You were supposed to be the toughest challenge, and I still beat you convincingly." It made Sabalenka appear even worse and turned her justifications on its head. As soon as the tennis community realized what had transpired, Sabalenka became a punchline. She was criticized by fans and commentators for her impolite remarks. People were constantly pointing out on social media that you cannot be one of the world's best players and then claim that your opponent's skill was the reason you lost, rather than your own errors. No matter how you attempt to spin it, that kind of contradiction makes you appear silly. The fact that this wasn't an isolated incident just serves to highlight how absurd Sabalenka's remarks were. Neither a controversial ruling nor a single fortuitous stroke helped Gauff win. From the beginning to the end, she controlled the contest. It was a decisive score. The performance was thorough. On that particular day, it was obvious who was the superior player. It is at best naive and at worst rude for Sabalenka to attempt to portray it as anything other than Gauff outperforming her.
Sabalenka has apologized for her comments she made after her Roland Garros finals loss to Coco Gauff. If you're not aware, Aryna essentially said that it was a poor match from her and that Iga likely would have beaten Coco if Świątek won their semifinal. Aryna said on her IG story, "Yesterday was a tough one. Coco handled the conditions much better than I did and fully deserved the win. She was the better player yesterday and I want to give her the credit she earned. You all know me, I'm going to be honest and human in how I process these moments. I made over 70 unforced errors, so I can't pretend it was a great day for me. Both things can be true. I didn't play my best and Coco stepped up and played with poise and purpose. She earned that title. Respect. Time to rest, learn, and come back stronger." I think it's good that Sabalenka said at least something, but the main issue for me and a lot of other people was her saying that Iga likely would have beaten Coco in the finals if Iga won their semifinal.
Because it is entirely hypothetical and unrelated, the EGA sweet comment is especially strange. Świątek was not selected for the final. Gauff did what any champion would do, beat whoever stood in front of her. It is useless to speculate on how a match that never took place would have turned out. Additionally, it is offensive to Gauff, since it implies that she couldn't have defeated Świątek, an assertion Sabalenka has no right to make. Perhaps Gauff would have won with even greater conviction. We'll never find out. Furthermore, bringing it up only serves to minimize Gauff's accomplishment.
Look at Coco. I had a chance, obviously, to go to Roland Garros. I was at the French Open. She worked so hard every single match to get to the finals. And I just love the fact that she has not only the will to win, the fight to win. What I loved also is how she just takes the high road, no matter what. We all have heard the comments from Sabalenka, her negativity, talking about Coco wasn't better than her, that Coco didn't beat her, that she lost the match because of her errors. But I just want to say, when you mess with the bull, you get the horn. Sabalenka was so wrong. And what I love about Coco is that she can't say, anything. But these women have come after her, whether it's been Sabalenka, Iga, Rybakina. They've made comments, even when Coco was actually number 3 in the world, they talked about them being the big 3. So every turn she has to face not just her opponent, but the ridicule from her colleagues who should be supportive. And listen, you're playing against an American who's our top American. Have some respect, one.
This kind of reaction to defeat shows a lot about Sabalenka's character and attitude. She is incapable of accepting loss with dignity. She needs to reframe the loss as something other than being outplayed to preserve her ego. For someone who is meant to be an exceptional competitor, that is a weak mindset. The greatest athletes can admit when they were outperformed by someone on a particular day. They don't have to fabricate stories or offer justifications for why they didn't actually lose. There is no greater obvious difference between Xi's and Sabalenka's approaches to the matter. When her achievement was criticized, Gauff defended it while remaining gracious in victory. She didn't allow disrespect to go unpunished, but she also didn't gloat or take offense. That demonstrates maturity and self-assurance. After losing, Sabalenka was resentful, offering justifications and denigrating the accomplishments of her rival. That is a sign of insecurity and bad sportsmanship. While one player appears to be a champion, the other appears to be a bitter loser. Sabalenka doesn't seem to realize that her remarks make her loss appear worse rather than better. She could have simply stated, "Coco was the better player today. She played great. Best wishes to her." People would have gone on and she would have looked elegant. Rather, she's bringing more attention to the loss and encouraging others to examine the specifics of how severely she was beaten by justifications and implying that she beat herself. Instead of letting the discussion about her failure fade into the background, she's keeping it going. When Sabalenka began to notice the response to her remarks, she most likely felt instant sorrow. You realize you made a mistake when fans start making memes about you, when pundits point out your lack of grace, and even when impartial onlookers point out your bad sportsmanship. But it's too late by then. The words are out there. The harm has been done. You cannot retract it or act as though you had a different intention. Sabalenka has already displayed poor sportsmanship and made dubious remarks. She struggles to give credit when credit is due and has a reputation for being a sour loser. People are less inclined to give her the benefit of the doubt when things like this occur because of her behavior pattern. She's developing a reputation as someone who can give but not take, who avoids taking responsibility when she loses but demands all the praise when she wins. The paradox is that Sabalenka is a really good player. She has several Grand Slam victories. She's been named the world's most popular person. She possesses the skills and accomplishments to be regarded as one of her generation's greatest. However, that legacy is being tarnished by her incapacity to accept loss with dignity. People will remember the poor sportsmanship and the excuses just as much as they will the wins. That was a self-inflicted injury that was simply preventable. Conversely, Gauff is establishing a reputation as a sport that rewards elegance and deals with contempt with poise. Because she effectively represents the sport, she's developing into the kind of champion that casual fans can support. When she fails, she doesn't justify herself, and when she wins, she doesn't put up with rudeness. That is the whole set of skills and qualities that enable athletes to excel beyond their sport. In reality, the drop trophy lid moment is the ideal representation of Gauff's genuineness. She wasn't attempting to be perfect or well-groomed. She simply had a sincere enthusiasm for winning.
She was so thrilled that she made a small mistake with the hardware. That is charming. It's true. Compare that to Sabalenka's meticulously crafted justifications intended to preserve her reputation. There is one real player, the second is computation. Authenticity evokes a reaction in fans. The fact that Sabalenka's remarks suggest she may not have been giving Gauff due credit or respect before the match adds another level of complexity to the scenario. She wouldn't be so eager to blame herself for the defeat if she really thought Gauff was a top player who could defeat her on merit. It appears that she didn't believe Gauff could beat her up right away because her first thought was that she beat herself. The explanations are a means of avoiding the recognition that she was mistaken about her opponent, and the underestimation most likely had a part in the defeat. The implication that Swiatek would have prevailed over Gauff is also telling, since it indicates that Sabalenka perceives Swiatek as the true risk, while considering Gauff to be somewhat less hazardous. In competitive tennis, when any top player may defeat any other top player on any given day, that is a grave error. Because she was so astonished that she lost, Sabalenka essentially acknowledged that she undervalued Gauff, which is how upsets happen. This scenario gave the tennis press a field day. The cold shoulder, the shade, and the conflicting accounts of the match were all examined in articles. Podcasts talked about the implications for both athletes. Whether Sabalenka's evaluation of the game was correct or an excuse was examined by analysts. Because Sabalenka was unable to accept defeat with grace, the entire situation escalated beyond what was necessary. This scenario most likely feels familiar to Gauff. Throughout her career, she has had to cope with those who undervalue her and disparage her accomplishments. People said she was just a feel-good story that would fade away when she first came to prominence as a teenager. They claimed she was overhyped when she continued to win. Some attempted to downplay her victory at the US Open by highlighting the opposition she faced. After she won the French Open, her opponent tried to discredit her right away. The pattern eventually becomes obvious, and Gauff is obviously tired of it. Simply keeping winning is the best kind of retaliation in Gauff. She is the real deal, and everyone should stop disparaging her based on the fact that she wins tournaments and dominates major matches. Perhaps the worst regret of all is that Sabalenka gave her more fuel by treating her disrespectfully. Making Coco Gauff feel as though she needs to prove herself is not the best way to inspire her. The next time you play her, you will be much more embarrassed as a result. Even before either athlete made a public statement, their body language during the awards ceremony revealed the entire situation. Commentators were pointing out Gauff's blatant refusal to interact with Sabalenka in real time. Sabalenka appeared uneasy, most likely aware that her remarks had repercussions and that Gauff would not act as though nothing was wrong. When instant regret is broadcast live on international television, it appears odd. This is a straightforward lesson. Accept your defeat with grace, especially if it's a severe one. Give your opponent a congrats. Give them credit for their work. Losing to someone who played excellent tennis is not a source of embarrassment. However, you come out as insecure and petty when you start offering excuses and implying that you beat yourself instead of taking credit where credit is due. The entire tennis world watched as Sabalenka had to learn that lesson the hard way. The fact that Gauff was given the final say in this circumstance without even needing to be cruel or rude is especially pleasing. She merely expressed the facts. She did a good job playing. Fair and square, she prevailed. Additionally, Sabalenka was her most formidable foe. Sabalenka's explanations were destroyed by those straightforward remarks, which also made her appear dumb for ever making them. That is pettiness at the highest degree, presented in a dignified manner. Long-term effects of this tragedy include giving Gauff and Sabalenka an advantage in any future games. Their rivalry will become more interesting due to the history and animosity that presently exist. The drama surrounding this French Open final will be remembered by fans. Both players gain from the increased stress in terms of plots and attention spans, even though Sabalenka most likely wishes the incident had never occurred. Aryna Sabalenka's effort to cast doubt on Coco Gauff's triumph at the French Open backfired miserably. She appeared to be a bitter loser who couldn't take losing, rather than being gracious in defeat. Gauff's cool-headedness and calculated reaction made Sabalenka a laughingstock and solidified her own reputation as a classy champion. That is the appearance of sudden regret. Click like and subscribe to get more analysis on tennis drama.